Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Lindner Women in Business WebEx. You all should be muted and everything, but we want to welcome you tonight. I'm going to have the presenters introduce themselves, but my name is Ashley McFarland. I serve as the Associate Director for Undergraduate Recruitment. You're going to see me towards the end of the presentation to kind of handle the Q&A portion. So if you have questions along the way, go ahead and fill them in the Q&A, and we'll handle those at the end. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Marianne to start the introductions.
I'm Dean Marianne Lewis. I'm a professor of management here at Lindner. I have been dean for the past year. Prior to that, I was dean in London for 4 years. But actually before London, I was here for 18 years. So I am a Bearcat. I absolutely love the Lindner College of Business and UC, and it's a pleasure to be here tonight. But I am thrilled to have Vanessa Morrow with us tonight. Vanessa, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello. My name is Vanessa. I am a fourth-year marketing major with a minor in psychology. I am the president of Lindner Women in Business. This is my first year as president, and I'm very honored to be serving as president. I look forward to everything Elwood has to offer you guys and our members, and that's a little bit about me.
Thank you. So what we're going to do tonight is we want to talk about a couple of issues near and dear to our hearts and to Lindner, and then open it up to broader questions. So you can see the questions that Vanessa and I are going to start with. We're going to look a bit into inclusive excellence, into the power of taking risks, and into the women's resources within Lindner and across this campus and in the business world. So we want to start with the question of inclusive leadership. We hear a lot these days about diversity and inclusion, and Vanessa and I were just talking about the power of those two words and particularly how they combine in inclusive leadership. Let me maybe step back myself and share with you, I said that I was a professor of management. Maybe most importantly, I should share that I am a professor of leadership. I've been studying and practicing now leadership for about 20 years. And when I think about the power of inclusion, it really foots to our focus, our purpose at Lindner, because we are about empowering problem solvers to tackle the world's challenges. And leadership is such a critical and vital vehicle for solving problems. But leadership alone is just a term. Inclusion is really about how do you get the diversity of perspectives and, more importantly, voices in the room to help you tackle the bigger challenges. When I think about this at Lindner, as an example, we're working on our 5-year transformation strategy. We've gone through a process really in the first year since I've been here, just had our faculty and staff retreats. But one of the key next steps, and I was just talking to Vanessa about it, is a student steering team that is absolutely critical, because if you don't have voices from, all sorts of different perspectives, not just the student perspective, but think of all the variety of students that we have, from the alumni perspective and all the variety of alumni who have graced these halls and continue to support this college, as well as then the the employers. That diversity in each of those steering teams is going to be critical for strategy and the changes going forward, because you don't know what you don't know. And by having a diversity of perspectives, diversity of insights, capabilities, backgrounds in critical discussions around major problems, goals, and visions, the future changes rapidly. And so I'm very grateful to have Vanessa be part of that student team. But let me open that a bit more to Vanessa. Vanessa, tell me a little bit about what your view of inclusive excellence or inclusive leadership is, and how you practice that and how you're developing it as a student.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that, being inclusive, it's not just about accepting and welcoming all different types of people and characteristics, backgrounds, and whatever. It's really about, to me, it's really about using those differences to not only your advantage, but to those people's advantage, to the organization's advantage, to society's advantage, to build and innovate, and to really use those outcomes to benefit society as a whole. Because if we just continue with the status quo, or we don't have a diverse and inclusive area, a group, a team, or a thought process, then, like you said, we're not going to get anywhere. You're going to stay in that narrow path. You're not going to branch out. You're not going to grow as much as you could do, as much as you could grow. So I think it's incredibly powerful and necessary. And it is a type of leadership. There's many different kinds of leadership, and I think it's one of the best leadership tools and types that a leader could have.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, you know, I was thinking that as we've been working on our strategy, really over the past year in the framework, it's not going to surprise you that we put as our first priority student-focused, and particularly focused on student success. But I think about kind of what you were just saying, and when we say student success, I don't know what your success looks like, right? I don't know what different students are going to have different views. I don't want to define your success, right? Because you don't even necessarily know what it is. Because actually, it's going to grow, right, with every step of your college career, your professional career, and your life. So we had a wonderful discussion as we were building this framework about student success, because it became very powerful realization, and we had some early student feedback as well, that we don't want to define what that means. Because if we're about empowering problem solving, one of the key problems is, what do you think success is?
Right.
Right?
I think you guys not defining, like Lindner not defining what it means to be successful for each person, it kind of is like you're not setting limits on someone.
No.
Or you're not putting someone in a box. And that really, it allows the Lindner College of Business to grow, to expand beyond the boundaries that we're setting on ourselves. And I think that's a huge part of inclusive leadership. I don't think people know, people think that it's to make someone feel good. It's to make you look good. And it's not, I mean, yes, people do feel good when they feel included, when they feel needed.
Yeah,
but
sense of belonging.
Yes, but it's so much more.
Yeah, I agree. Well, and it leads into our next question, which is what is the importance of branching out and taking risks as female leaders? Because inclusive leadership is a risk. I mean, it requires being vulnerable. If you are going to put yourself in front of a diverse group, like whether it's a steering group, whatever the case might be, you have to be open to that feedback. If not, it's a waste, right? You've missed all the opportunities. But you were talking a bit about risk before.
Yes, part of what you were saying with not knowing, if you don't know the different types of people, you're not going to be able to learn and grow those ways. So that kind of goes with the whole, inclusive leadership. But with taking risks, like we talked a little bit before, and taking risks is how I got to be the president of Lindner Women Business. I never thought for once that I would be in a leadership role in a major organization at the Lindner College of Business. When the applications went out, I didn't ignore it, but I wasn't applying. But someone reached out to me, someone took a risk on me and said, I think you have qualities. You love Lindner Women Business, you love what we do, you love empowering people, you love all these things. And so someone took a risk on me, so I took a risk and I took a chance. I might fail as the president, but I'm going to do everything in my power, because that's how you grow. That's how I learn. And so the more I take these risks, the crazier risks I end up taking down the line.
Yeah, but it's true, because they build on each other. And in my view, they build on each other because they build confidence. Yep. Not that you're going to succeed every time, but that if you fail, you'll get back up again.
Exactly.
And you'll learn from that experience and you'll keep moving. That's how risk ends up making better leaders.
Right. You see these people who, like yourself, so many success, so many different parts that, let me just restart a little bit. When you see someone who's successful and you say, I want to be that, how can I be a dean? How could I be the president of the United States? How could I be all these important, beautiful, crazy, scary things? And with that comes from taking risks. It comes from, I said before, there was a quote that I heard before about courage and confidence is a muscle, and you have to work those muscles. You're not going to be this macho woman. You're not going to be some bodybuilder out of the blue. You have to start working. You work from the little things and you work your way up. You start with the little risks and you work your way up. You start by raising your hand in class. You start by offering or accepting the role to be the leader in your group in class. And then you get over that.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
succeed. And then it just keeps building. It's one of those, it's a snowball effect. And that's how you end up being someone who is in that high leadership role. That's someone who, all these different roles that you kind of dream to be in. That's how I have been trying to accomplish my dreams.
I love it. And it reminds me, one of my favorite words is serendipity, which basically means planned luck, right? And it reminds me, Carl Lindner, and we've got his quotes on this building, and one of his quotes says, the harder I work, the luckier I get. But serendipity and planned luck basically means putting yourself in the right place at the right time. But it happens because you take risks, because you think about what do you really want, and what are some of the crazy or whatever steps it might take to get there. It's a weird example, but it's like, buying a car and you start to see that once you actually start doing the research and all the hard work, you start seeing them everywhere. You start hearing people talking about it, right? Crazy things happen. I got to share a funny example of this because I think it's a really interesting one. So 5 years ago, when I was the associate dean for undergraduate at Lindner, I decided I was going to take a break and go do a Fulbright scholarship in London. And I decided, well, how am I going to make the most of this experience? Because I'm going to become just a full-time researcher. I'm going to step out of leadership, whatever the case. I don't know. I wanted to write my book, which was a lot of fun. But so I decided I would offer myself to speak at every major business school in London and around a whole host of places. One of the places was the school I ended up becoming dean at. And I had an amazing day of speaking there. And I had a whole host of these. I was at Cambridge and Oxford and all these other, it was just beautiful. But one day I went and spoke at the London Business School, which is one of the top business schools in the world. And I think it's fair to say, Vanessa, I've never had such an awful experience. It was awful. Their questions were brutal. And I just kept taking a deep breath and taking it in. And I was presenting my research, but it was just really one of those awful, to the point that after I left, and it was fine, and I kept smiling, and I left and I decided instead of getting on the tube, I was going to walk the hour and a half home and lick my wounds and just get home. Okay, so a year later, I'm sitting in London as the dean, and the senior professor who was on the search team that hired me and I are having tea because we're in London and you have tea. And I say to him, geez, Charles, I'm so glad I took the risk to come to Cass and give this research talk. And he said, that's not why you're here. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, I was sitting in the London Business School when you presented there. And I said, what are you talking about? That was horrible. And he said, oh, no. I walked out of that room and I called the president of our university and I said, I think I just saw our next dean. Anybody who could take a lashing like that with poise and I share that example because you don't know where your next opportunity happens. But it certainly doesn't happen if you don't take the risk, which is your point exactly, right?
Absolutely. I mean, that's That's absolutely crazy, especially because
It's crazy.
You didn't know right away. You didn't know right away that happened. You don't know who's in the room. Those are the doors that we're talking about. You don't know what's going to happen until you do it. If you stay at home, you stay in bed, you're never going to live a life.
No.
You're never going to.
It's why I love UC. It's why I love the co-op model. It's why I believe in experiential learning, because every experience, right, whether it's co-op or study about or leading a student organization, every one of those has opportunities. The question is whether you're going to take them.
There's so many different routes you could go at Lindner. I mean, there's so many in co-op, the organization, and when you do go into that different, whatever that route is, those start to open up more and more doors. It never stops, and a lot of the time you can branch into both ways. You can co-op, you can be, or you can be in an organization. You can do all these things, and that builds your network, which is a huge way you're going to find more ways to be successful, to again, build yourself, to learn more and expand your skills. Lindner, I went to Wright State University. I had a good time. It was a good semester, but I just heard some of my friends, the things that they were doing, and I just kind of felt left behind, to be honest. I wanted to grow. I keep saying grow. That's one of my biggest.
Oh, I love it.
It's my passion. I want to grow myself and be the best I can be. Nothing left behind. And Lindner has helped me tremendously. If I didn't go to UC, I would not be Vanessa Morrow, the person that's sitting right here talking to you right now. There's no way.
But you know, the more you talk to us, and I love to hear your experiences. I mean, the two questions link, right? It goes back to, we can't define your success. Only you can define that. And the reason why we have so many flexible pathways in Lindner is because there are infinite number of things you could do in this world and in this life. What we have is a period of time in your college experience to say, okay, roll up your sleeves and start trying. Yep. And decide what excites you, how you get that smile and that twinkle in your eye, and you say, okay, now I'm somewhere I want to be. But it's likewise, I mean, I don't know if you've done this, or I've heard this from some of your peers, that when a student comes back from a co-op experience and says, man, I hated that. I say, okay, but then you say, okay, right? The list is huge. Start checking it off. If it's not what you want to do, nothing is wasted.
Right.
Because then we should talk about. That's right. And what did you like in elements? Because that's where you go say, okay, maybe it's a different organization. Is it a different type of work? Is it right? But with every experience, you ask more sophisticated questions about yourself and about your future.
Absolutely. Absolutely. PAL is one of the organizations that I don't think I talked about, the Inclusive Excellence Office. So but
that I think is a nice way to lead into the next question, which is, let's talk about some of the resources at Lindner.
Yeah.
And yeah, please tell us about Inclusive Excellence.
So the Inclusive Excellence Office, it used to be called the Diversity Inclusion Office. So sometimes it's a tongue twister for me. But we have 3 organizations underneath the Inclusive Excellence Office. We have PAL, the Pride at Lindner. We have Business Fellows, and we have the Lindner Women in Business. And I'm with the Lindner Women in Business. All of us together, we make up the Diversity Inclusion Program, and this is actually not the first year that we're together, but the first year that we are truly infusing our organizations and developing new things. And one of I'm going to call him out, his name is Andrew. He is the president of PAL, and I just had coffee while social distancing with masks. We just had coffee, and we were talking about how the resources that were available to the LGBTQ plus community, and it wasn't what he desired. So he rolled up his sleeves and he made PAL, and it is amazing. I've joined PAL, and I've learned so much. As an ally, I have so much more to learn. And while I'm learning, I'm networking, I'm growing as a person and as a peer, and it's amazing. That's just one of the organizations that's offered at Lindner. There's, like we said, there's so many more.
There are so many. I mean, when we were talking about the student steering team for the strategy, you know, there are 400 plus student organizations on this campus. And I think the list, like housed within Lindner alone, is almost 40. But it was wonderful to see that variety. And I think we should talk about Lindner Women in Business a bit.
Yes.
And maybe if I can tee it up a bit. So I was the associate dean that helped start Lindner Women in Business.
Yes.
So it's certainly a passion project of mine. And then actually when I went to London, we started something in London as well. And maybe awesome. I'd share why. Because, you know, if any worldwide or certainly world-class organization has groups like Women in Business within their organization. And the point isn't about exclusion, like men versus women. It's about an opportunity to have a place that you can have the difficult conversations. You can learn from each other. You can have mentors. You can have learning opportunities. And when you have those kind of people, from the leaders who want to support Lindner Women in Business to the students wanting to have those opportunities, magic happens. And I know that sounds maybe like Pollyanna, but I've been amazed at the kinds of events, workshops. I mean, I love Empowerment Day, so I better be quite, you should share more. I just think it's the tip of an iceberg that gets better every year.
It really does get better every year, and that's a perfect way to talk about Lindner Women in Business. I already said all the things that you can do to grow as a student in leadership-wise by, you know, taking those risks and joining and being, you know, an active member and all those things. But one of the things that we also do is Empowerment Day. It's our biggest annual event of the year. It's every March. It's when we have these amazing speakers come in, and you leave motivated. You leave with a fire in your stomach and ready to conquer the world. It's amazing. We have these strong, experienced women come in. Sometimes they're talking about tools that you can use. Sometimes they're talking about the failures that they have endured and overcome. Empowerment Day is a day where we bring not just women, but everybody together. Well, we bring everybody together in LWeb as a whole anyways. It's not just women.
No.
We're trying harder and harder every day to really push that forward. But Empowerment Day it's a way to network, it's a way to learn, it's a way to hear voices that you might not have heard yesterday.
You know, as you say that, I want to share that I have learned so much from my work with Lindner Women in Business from the very beginning. Another just story, I remember vividly when I decided after that Fulbright in London that I needed to leave UC. And it wasn't because I didn't love UC. It was the hardest decision I'd ever made. But I thought, it's back to I needed to grow. And I felt like I didn't have much more to give without getting out of my comfort zone.
Yep.
And so I did, you know, I didn't search very hard, to be honest. And I don't mean that egotistically, but I had two offers that were really interesting. I had this one in London, which was a top 40 business school. And then I had an option that I won't say the name, but I was going to be sitting on the beach making more money. And I really debated this. I thought the other school wasn't as good, but it sure looked like a nice life. And I thought, and as I was actually about to lead a study abroad, and I had a whole group on the plane, and I was texting my primary co-author about this, and she sent me two things. And one, she sent me an article that said of the top 100 business schools, 8 are led by women. She said, you must go to London. And I said, oh, I know. I mean, I knew I did. I knew I did. And then and so I have this long flight. It's hit me that I am going to London, and I'm scared to death. And I thought about, I don't know if you've read Sheryl Sandberg's book, Lean In.
No, I don't know.
It's worth reading, and it had just come out at the time, but Sheryl has a mantra, and I have it in my office, and I thought about it sitting on that plane, and her mantra is, imagine what I could do if I wasn't afraid. Which sounds kind of easy, but it's kind of like jumping off the cliff and knowing, but I didn't jump off the cliff without a safety net, because I thought a lot about Lindner Women in Business, and I thought about, I have to build my network. I have to build it before I even land in London, and I've done the same when I come back, because there are amazing women leaders in this world, and they stick together, and they support each other. Again, not as exclusion, but to help us learn from each other. And
right.
I'm grateful for Lindner Women in Business, because really that was a lesson I learned from the students who were leading it at the time, and I continue to learn from you. I think it's vital.
Thank you. Yeah, we just had our kickoff event, and one of the things that I wanted to push hard was sending the ladder down in networking.
Absolutely.
To help each other. So I think one of the most important things that LWIB does is lift each other up. Not just lift each other up, but challenge each other and provide outlets and provide resources. We grow by each other. I think that's what LWIB does for me. It's a community. It's, I wouldn't have been a president if it wasn't for Logan, our previous president, who said, hey, try it. Why not? What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah, but I think it's important what you just said, because it's not just about kind of cheering each other on, and I mean, it is about cheering each other on,
yeah,
and supporting, but challenging matters. Mm-hmm. And the only people that can challenge you effectively are people that care about you, right? I mean, that's how it works. It's a paradoxical relationship, right? The people
Absolutely.
who care about you most are the ones who can push you the hardest. I mean, we're about empowerment in this college, because you know what? The higher I hold the bar for you, the higher you're going to go. And it's not to be mean. It's because I know the potential, and you know the potential. And I don't know exactly what it is, but it does kind of start to build the snowball, and that's the point.
Yep, we might not know, but we'll find it.
We will find it.
That's what I like to say.
I do too.
Absolutely.
Well, I want to turn it back over to Ashley, because I know we might have some other questions, and she has some ways to bring everybody in. But Vanessa, I think you and I could talk all night.
Right.
We might have to soon, but we'll go from there. Thanks, Ashley.
Yeah, so if you have questions for Marianne or Vanessa or both, feel free to add them in the chat or the Q&A function. We'll go ahead and get those answered. We have a couple that came in, and definitely the resounding best thing of the night you both have said is that courage and confidence is a muscle. So we got a lot of good feedback on that, which is wonderful. What advice do you have for these women that are on the call about the college search process, and kind of maybe what would you tell yourself at 18 if you could go back and kind of do your life over again? What tidbits do you have for them?
I think so for myself, when I was 18 and I was in high school, I didn't actually look at a lot of different colleges. I knew UC was an option. I'm from Cincinnati. I went to Reading High School.
Okay.
I went from second grade to I graduated, and a lot of people went to UC, and I didn't want to stay in my community. I wanted to get out. I wanted to branch off. I wanted to do my own thing. And I went somewhere else, but when it came down to it, that community is everything. That community, that Cincinnati is one of the best cities you could be in. It's one of the best cities you can be in. I think it's creative, it's all these things. And so when you're looking for a college to go to, you want to not just look at, it's very important to look at the academics and all that stuff, but to look at the community, look at the potential that you can have there. You know, what can you get yourself into? What can make yourself grow? And what do you want? You know, if you picture yourself as, I know it's 18, it's hard to look at yourself 5-10 years from down the road. It changes. It changes every year drastically. But trying to do those things and to truly be honest with yourself and to ask questions, look at the resources, take college tours, to do all those things, it's incredibly important, and to really find those things that would highlight who you are, your characteristics, and your dreams, the things that you're scared of. What if, like, I might be scared to join an organization. I might be scared to co-op, and that's a huge thing that the Lindner College of Business pushes you towards. But if you do, doors open up. So that's one of the things I would highly encourage an 18-year-old me, a few years ago.
Vanessa, you just make me smile because, so you transferred here, right?
I did.
Okay, so I transferred twice as an undergrad.
So
you and I can both tell people what not to do. Well, but I think it's important because, for those of you, on the call, this is a big decision. Don't become paralyzed by the decision, but it is about fit. It's about deciding that you could be comfortable enough in a place to take the kind of risks we're talking about, right? To reach out and explore. I mean, my first college experience, I went to a place that seemed very safe. And I think there's a paradoxical issue there. It was so safe, it was risky because I couldn't last. It didn't excite me. I didn't have the motivation, the energy. I think you want to go to a place that you say, oh, imagine what I could do there. And, if you don't have to drink from the fire hose and start on day one, right? You've got time. That's the beauty of an undergraduate experience. So I was at that point.
I'm the only non-transfer on the call, so I picked UC off the bat. So.
Right off the bat.
Yeah. But you're right, Marianne. I think it's about finding that place that you feel at home and somewhere you can make a difference and that you're looking forward to coming to. So I think that's really exciting. We have another question. It's a little bit about scholarships. So given the COVID-19 and pandemic that's going on, do we have any idea how that will influence scholarships was one of the questions.
I mean, it won't influence scholarships, except that I will tell you we are raising a lot. We're doing nice jobs raising money for scholarships because people know, if anything, we need more. It's certainly not going down. I guess maybe that's the most important thing to say.
Yeah,
it's definitely not going down. It's going the other direction. But I also, the other piece I would say about scholarships, because I am increasingly concerned about the cost of higher education. Mm-hmm. One of the reasons I'm grateful to be at UC, and one of the reasons I actually left back from London, which was a private school, is I love being at a public institution, right? Because it's about being accessible, right? High quality access. But the second piece is about the co-op. Because once you start co-oping, you start making money as well as going to school, and then it starts building as well. So it's how do you start putting those pieces together? How do you have something you can afford from the get-go? Because we don't want you to graduate with a bunch of debt. Right? We want you to graduate with future and a lot of excitement. There might be some, but there are ways that with good financial literacy and planning, but we've got people here that can help you talk through that. Vanessa, how did you kind of think about the finances side? Because it's a big piece of the question.
Mm-hmm. Well, I took a little bit of a different route. I joined the Army Reserves, and so I get a lot of finance through that way.
No, it's a great program.
There is another, I wish I could tell more information about it, but the Lindner Women in Business, that we offer a scholarship to freshmen. I didn't know about it. Well, I wasn't a freshman when I came to UC anyways, so.
That's
right. But we do offer one, and I can provide more information at a later date. But finding those, I think one of the advice that I would want to give is to push and pull all those resources, anything that you can get, and hammer it in. Do whatever you can to keep going.
I love the point. I mean, I have a son that went ROTC type of route too. I mean, I think it's, you apply first, right? You start talking to people at that university. I'd love it to be here, but you start talking to people, they know the finances. But then the other piece is, you start looking under the rocks, right? High schools, local communities, national. There are a variety of sources, but I think the first piece is you apply and then you start working with people who are experts in the system and you get really creative. I love your example, and I've seen a lot of creativity from students, but I think it's how do you put those pieces together.
There's a couple of scholarships that you can get when you're only in high school. So, and those scholarships, I think one of them is a census. I think it's a census scholarship, Cincinnati scholarship.
Oh, the Cincinnati. Mm-hmm.
I wish I did. I wish I applied for it. I did not apply for it.
And you have to apply by December 1st for that, what she's talking about.
Actually, that's a really important statement. Everybody on the call, apply by December 1st. You want every opportunity available. And the best way to do that is make sure you're in by the deadline.
Right. Don't wait.
Don't wait. Don't wait. You don't have to make a decision yet, but you have to apply by December 1st.
Practice that work ethic.
Right. So the next question that came in is, how were each of you able to discover what you wanted your major to be in college? So maybe Vanessa, we'll start with you of kind of what did that take? Did you know right away? Did you have to come in and take some courses? Kind of talk a little bit about that.
Mm-hmm. I did not know what I wanted to do. Well, I thought I wanted to be an engineer, actually. And I also knew that I love business. I love business. And at Wright State, I took an economics class. And when I came here to UC, I looked more into economics. And then I started taking some classes. And then I started taking, one of the big thing about colleges make you take these basic classes. You have to take a finance class, you have to take a marketing class, you have to take all these classes, and we're always saying, why do I have to take these? Like, I don't want to do this. Like, I know what I want to do, and I did not know what I wanted to do. I was irritated that I did take all these classes, but then I took my first marketing class, and I fell in love with marketing.
Good.
And the more classes that I take in marketing, the more I branch. Like, that's why I love marketing research and consumer behavior. And so I started taking marketing classes, and then I said, psychology seems to be a big part of that. Mm-hmm. I need to take some psychology classes. So taking all these classes helps you figure out what you want to do, because you take these little nuggets of everything and you get to test them out. And I think it's really important. It might be frustrating, but you'll understand. Mm-hmm. Try them out, know what you like, know what you don't like, know what you're good at, know what you need some work on. That's how I found that I wanted to be in marketing.
And Vanessa, we talk about the foundational courses that you're talking about, and I think it's really important to know, if you do love marketing, you should know what the accountant's doing, so that when they come to you in your business,
because you're going to need them.
You're going to need that. And then you can push back a little bit at times, and I think that was really helpful. And I do think students at times within the business curriculum think, wow, this is a lot. And so we always say the first half of the curriculum, no matter what your major is, essentially the same. But what it allows you to do is switch that major if you need to. And like you said, with co-op and trying things out, like Marianne said, maybe you come back and you didn't like that accounting, co-op. And so that allows you to course correct pretty easily within Lindner. So I think that's a great point of really trying to figure it out and using those courses to your benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I would add a couple pieces to that, because, we're already talking about the big decision that is where you go to college. And then you have this other big decision that is, what is going to be your major. And I think I just want to say to everybody, they are big decisions, but they're not, right? Because if you get a good foundation, those other decisions actually start to happen because of every step you take. I mean, the reason why we put so much emphasis on the freshman year, sorry, Vanessa, you missed that. I'm glad you're making most of it now, right? Is we know that you need to start trying things out very quickly through projects, through courses, through, right, a host of things. I mean, one of the reasons that I love business is business. You're going to think I'm biased because I am in a business school, but everything is a business, right? I don't care if it's the arts or nonprofit or the hospital down the road, or if they are not run like a business, they will not survive. But then the real beauty is, but what in business? What kind of problems do you want to solve? Do you care about what the consumers do? Do you care about what's happening in new product development, right? Don't these sound like marketing?
Right.
Marketing is one of the biggest majors on this campus, but there are certain things you could do in marketing. If you like the numbers, You go into market research, right?
Anna.
Really like the individual, the consumer behavior? Absolutely. You have the psychology, right?
Yep.
You like the product development, you get into operations and entrepreneurship. But that's where I like the way you're describing it. We build a base foundation, then a major, and then you start thinking, whether it's a course or a minor or a certificate or a double major, I mean, then you start plug and playing that fits you. Because I don't know, again, what you're going to do.
Right. You can pull those minors down. You can say, Vanna, this business analytics, that's all these things. For marketing, that's huge. I mean, I'm not a fan of business analytics, but it's so important. It is so important. And if you don't want to major, you can minor. You can find these certificates. And taking all these little classes, because like you said, Ashley, everything ties in together. It all does. You can't avoid anything. You just embrace it, learn it, love it, learn to love it. And it really helps you figure out, and all these little classes, they're so important. I haven't taken one class that I haven't used.
Right. I think that's it too. Yeah.
I think that attitude is so vital. I really do, because I mean, I remember once upon a time, and I'm sure this is still a challenge for some, is you look at that kind of requirements class, you think, oh my gosh, check the box. I can't believe I have to take, right? But it's one of our biggest challenges is how do we help people understand there is a method to the madness. There is a reason why we want you to take these courses. You know, I had a meeting with a fellow who leads an investment firm this morning, and we were talking about finance. I mean, finance is another big major, but there are so many different elements of finance. And if you talk to somebody in investment or banking or mergers and acquisition, what they'll tell you is you better know history, you better know geopolitics, right? Because all of these things influence this great big system that markets operate in. And suddenly people say, oh, I get why I have to take arts and sciences classes, but sometimes it's hard to have that light bulb come on when you're sitting in the class saying, I do not understand why So the fact that you get it already, Vanessa, is a good sign, but I would say that to everybody. I mean, you're going to see things and think, I really wish I didn't have to take that. But I can promise you, this is why we do co-op. We talk to the employers all the time. We are partners. We say, in your perfect world, what would you want the students to, if not be able to do, at least know, and know how it adds value. I don't know, you get me excited because I see so much opportunity here. And it is a lot of fun because you build it yourself.
Yeah.
So that's all the questions we have. So I'm going to go ahead and share the document again as you two think of maybe final thoughts to share with everyone while we go. But I wanted to make sure that they saw we put together a list of some recommendations for TEDx's that are happening. I will be sending out an email follow-up to everyone who's in attendance tonight so that you have this list, a couple books at the bottom, things that, we think that you might be interested in. And Marianne or Vanessa, any final words from you?
Well, maybe while you have this slide up, I would just call out the top TED Talk. If you haven't watched or read Brené Brown, I highly recommend her. It fits so much with what Vanessa and I have been talking tonight because we've been talking about courage and confidence. But the way Brené works on it is she talks about really courage and vulnerability are two sides of the same coin. You only build courage by making yourself vulnerable, by taking the risks, by exploring. And as you do that, you build your courage and then you explore further. And it goes back and forth in a really powerful iterative process. And Vanessa, I think you're a wonderful example of doing just that. And I would tell others on the call, I mean, I think to reach out to either of us, but there's so many great opportunities here. So thank you, Vanessa. Thanks for being part of this with me.
Thank you. I think my favorite, I like TED Talks. Honestly, a lot of the little bullet points that I get are from TED Talks. And it's we're talking about inclusivity and, talking to different people. That's what TED Talks kind of do for me. You learn these different perspectives. And the 3 reasons on success from an Arab businesswoman, I learned a lot from that TED Talk about having a community and how women need to support each other and how they do that. And, what's it like to build a network of women and how important that is, and not only in other countries, but here in Lindner. Let's just bring it all the way down. We're talking about different places, but the other TED Talk that I really found inspiring was I believe it's The Dangerous Times Call for Dangerous Women. I've watched that TED Talk probably 4 times, back to back. There's so many different parts that you can get from it, but one of the things is that courage. Things are not easy. And so listen to other women, listen to other men, listen to everybody. And you'll find ways to build that courage, that it's a muscle. Work on it.
That's awesome. Well, thank you, Vanessa. Thank you, Marianne, for joining us tonight. If anyone on the call has questions about admissions or recruitment or anything like that, or anything we talked about tonight, please feel free to contact our undergraduate recruitment team. And with that, thank you so much for attending. Thanks, Marianne and Vanessa.
Thank you, guys.
Everybody. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you, team.